What's up everybody, Weston here with the Hidden Gibbon, back with another daily deck tech video. And today, we have a viewer request. So this one's a little bit interesting. The commander for it is Nicol Bolas the Ravager. And the person asked for like a sub-theme of mill and graveyard theft. So we're going to try to mix a few of those things in there with the standard Grixis control aspect of Nicol Bolas. So who is Nicol Bolas the Ravager though? Because we have a million Nicol Bolas in Magic. It's a 4/4 for 4 with flying, and when Nicol Bolas the Ravager enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card, which is pretty nice, you know. Gives some card disadvantage to your opponents. And then you can pay 7, and you can exile Nicol Bolas the Ravager, then return him to the battlefield transformed under his owner's control. Activate this ability only anytime you cast a sorcery. And he becomes Nicol Bolas the Arisen, a 7 loyalty planeswalker with +2, draw 2 cards. -3, he deals 10 damage to target creature or planeswalker. -4, put target creature or planeswalker card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So that's where part of that theft is coming from. And then -12, exile all but the bottom card of target player's library. Now, with this, you're going to have to alternate turns, but we do have a little bit of proliferate in here to try to help us maintain enough loyalty to be able to use his ability more than once. And we're also going to have to protect our Nicol Bolas, because honestly, planeswalkers are incredibly vulnerable in Commander, because you get 1 turn to everybody else's 3, and if they don't like your commander, they will end it right then and there. So how are we going to do this? We are running 4 other planeswalkers in this deck, and these planeswalkers are kind of designed to take a little bit of the heat off of our Nicol Bolas the Arisen, as well as kind of complement him in a few different ways. So first, we have Liliana, Dreadhorde General, a 6 loyalty for 6, and whenever a creature you control dies, draw a card. You can +1 to create a zombie creature token. You can -4 to have each player sacrifice 2 creatures of their choice. This puts creatures into the opponent's graveyard for you to revive with your Bolas. And then -9, each opponent chooses a permanent they control of each permanent type and sacrifices the rest. If you manage to get off the 9, you just win the game, is pretty much what that says. Then we have Liliana of the Veil, a card that used to command a price tag of north of $70, now is sitting at about $10, which is kind of sad if you think about it. She's a 3 loyalty for 3, has +1, each player discards a card, -2, target player sacrifices a creature, and -6, separate all permanents target player controls into 2 piles. That player sacrifices all permanents in the pile of their choice. We then have Nicol Bolas, Dragon God. He has the loyalty abilities of all other planeswalkers on the battlefield. I put him in here so that way we can use our Nicol Bolas the Arisen abilities as well as our own. You can +1 him to draw a card. Each opponent exiles a card from their hand or permanent they control. You can -3, destroy target creature or planeswalker, and -8, each opponent who doesn't control a legendary creature or planeswalker loses the game. This -8 is essentially useless nowadays, since every creature is essentially a legendary one. And then we have Nicol Bolas, the God Pharaoh. He's a 7 loyalty for 7. +2, target opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile an online card, and until end of turn you may cast that card without paying its mana cost, which is pretty good, a little bit of theft. +1, each opponent exiles 2 cards from their hand. -4, he deals 7 damage to target opponent, creature an opponent controls, or planeswalker an opponent controls. And -12, exile each non-land permanent your opponents control. That is actually a pretty solid -12 if you can get it there. For creatures, we're running quite a few varied dudes today. I also tried to keep this somewhat budgety, under $200. So that's why you're not going to see some really big busted things in here. We got Burglar Rat. When this creature enters, an opponent discards each opponent discards a card. We have Cackling Fiend. When he enters, each opponent discards a card. These are also little chump blockers for you. We have Clone. So you can clone like your Cackling Fiend, your Burglar Rat, this Ravenous Chupacabra here. You can clone a bunch of things. Flex Channeler is also a good one for proliferate reasons. We have Consuming Aberration, which is a star for 5. Its power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in your opponent's graveyards. So it gets pretty big pretty fast if you're milling. Whenever you cast a spell, each opponent reveals the top card of their library until they reveal a land card. Then puts those cards into their graveyard, which is pretty solid, you know. A good amount of middle there. Then we have Dragon Lord Silumgar, flying Death Touch, and when he enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature or planeswalker for as long as you control Dragon Lord Silumgar. Fel Spectre, when he enters, target opponent discards a card, and whenever an opponent discards a card, that player loses 2 life. We have Feral Ghoul, he has Menace, and whenever another creature you control dies, put a 1/1 counter on Feral Ghoul, and when he dies, each opponent gets a number of rad counters equal to its power. So rads are a little bit of a way to help us with our mill plan. Flux Channeler, whom I've already mentioned for a clone target, is whenever you cast a non-creature spell, proliferate. Hippie, the old original, it's a 2/2 for 3, flying, and whenever he deals combat damage to an opponent, that player discards a card at random. So this discard, in a way, is kind of like mill, right? You're milling from somebody's hand. We have Mindclaw Shaman. When he enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals his or her hand. You may cast an instant or sorcery card. That player can from that player's hand without paying its mana cost. We have Nightkin Ambusher, Ward 2. When he enters the battlefield, target player gets 4 rad counters, and he can't be blocked as long as defending player has rad counters. Ravenous Chupacabra shoots a creature dead when it comes into the battlefield. Then we have Sidrax's Spectre. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card. It flies, and it's a 3/2, and you can unearth it. We have Thief of Sanity, which is one of my favorite cards, actually. It flies, is a 2/2 for 3, and whenever he deals combat damage to a player, look at the top 3 cards of that player's library, exile one of them face down, put the rest into their graveyard. You may cast that card for as long as it remains exiled, and mana can be spent as other mana of any type. We then have a classic commander card here. We have Thraximundar, or as everybody in our play group used to call it, Thraximundar. But he is a 6/6 for 100 million mana, also known as 7. He has haste, and whenever Thraximundar attacks, defending player sacrifices a creature. Whenever a player sacrifices a creature, you may put a 1/1 counter on Thraximundar. We have Thrumming Bird, so whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you get to proliferate, which is always fun. And Treasure Nabber, so that way you can temporarily steal people's mana rocks, so that way you can outplay some of these a million mana casting cost spells. We have our sorceries, and 18 of them here. We have Blasphemous Act, a classic, right? We have Contentious Plan, draw a card, and proliferate. Cruel Ultimatum, a classic. Target opponent sacrifices a creature, discards 3 cards, then loses 5 life, and you return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand, draw 3 cards, then gain 5 life. Crux of Fate lets you either destroy all dragons or all non-dragon creatures. Dark Imitations, each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, then discards a card. You may return a creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand, then draw a card. When you cast a Bolas Planeswalker spell, exile Dark Intimations from your graveyard. That planeswalker enters the battlefield with an additional loyalty counter on it. Not the worst. Divest, target opponent reveals their hands. You can choose an artifact or creature and make them discard it. We have Dreadbore, destroy target creature or planeswalker. We have Epic Downfall, exile target creature, mana value 3 or greater. I also like the art on this. Feed the Swarm lets you pop a creature or enchantment, and you lose life equal to the mana value. Glimpse the Unthinkable, again, one of my favorite cards in all of Magic the Gathering. Target player puts the top 10 cards of their library into their graveyard. I used to put this on Panoptic Mirror in Kitchen Table Magic. Hour of Devastation, all creatures lose indestructible until end of turn. It deals 5 damage to each creature and eats non-Bolas Planeswalker. It's a pretty solid Wrath type effect. Mind Funeral, target opponent reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal 4 land cards. That player puts all cards revealed this way into his or her graveyard. This really punishes those people who are playing like 20 lands in their deck. And if you think that doesn't happen, I can tell you, friends, the amount of people I've encountered IRL and on Spell Table who play like 25 lands in their like bracket 3 and bracket 2 deck is pretty high. This is your local reminder. Please do not run under 35 lands in a deck. And then we have Settle the Score, exile a target creature, put 2 loyalty counters on a Planeswalker you control. Again, a little bit of removal here, and also helps pump up one of your Planeswalkers. Singularity Rupture is actually one of the all-stars of this strategy for the mill and theft. It destroys all creatures, then any number of target players each mill half their library rounded down. So what you're going to do is you're going to play this to Wrath when you have your Nicol Bolas Planeswalker out there, and then you're going to have everyone else at the table mill half of their library. And that gives you a lot of targets for any Nicol Bolas. Then we have Slave of Bolas, gain control of target creature. Untap that creature, gains haste until end of turn. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. I wish this spell cost like 1 less. It would be better. But, you know, this is back in the day before we were super hyper powerful with cards. We have Tasha's Hideous Laughter. Each opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until that player has exiled cards with total 20 minutes. I know this one isn't exactly mill, but it does help advance the game plan of thinning out opponents' decks. Traumatize. Target player mills half their library rounded down. Simple, straightforward. And then we have Yawgmoth's Vile Offering. It's a legendary sorcery, so you have to control a legendary creature or a Planeswalker. And then you put up to 1 target creature or Planeswalker card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Destroy up to 1 target creature or Planeswalker. And then exile Yawgmoth's Vile Offering. So it gets you something from the opponent's graveyard and also does fun things. We then have Croesus Charm. You can return a permanent to its owner's hand, destroy a non-black creature, or destroy target artifact. Believe it or not, friends, back in the day, one sec. Sorry about that. As I was saying, remember back in the day where black removal used to hit anything that wasn't black, but now it hits everything. We have Displace, which is exile up to 2 target creatures you control, then return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control. We have Go for the Throat, destroy target non-artifact creature. We have Illusionist Stratagem, which is exile up to 2 target creatures you control, then return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control. Draw a card. It's a good way to actually protect against removal because it blinks them, which removes the target temporarily. We have Murder, Steady Progress, draw a card, and Proliferate. Terminate, destroy target creature, it can't be regenerated. And Thought Collapse, counter target spell, its controller mills 3 cards. Yes, I know it's the only counter spell in here, but it does mill. Also, sorry if I sound out of breath. Still recovering from my hospital visit, and it hurts really bad to like breathe in deeply. So, trying to recover. For our artifacts, all but one of them are mana rocks. We have an Arcane Signet in here, a Soul Ring in here, and then we have the signets. We have Izzet, Dimir, and Rakdos signets. And then we have Ichor Gauntlet, which is an artifact for 3. Planeswalkers you can control have 0 Proliferate and -12. Take an extra turn after this one. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you choose a counter on target permanent, put an additional counter of that kind on that permanent. Loyalty counters, friends. For enchantments, we have Cloud of the Dominus. This gives Shroud to our commander until we can get him flipped. We have In Bolas Clutches, which is you control enchanted permanent. The enchanted permanent is legendary. Inexorable Tide, whenever you cast a spell, proliferate. We have Kaya's Ghost Form, lets you bring something back. This is also a good way to protect your Nicol Bolas until you can get him flipped. Psychic Corrosion, whenever you draw a card, each opponent puts the top 2 cards of their library in their graveyard. Rowan's Talent, which is a enchant Planeswalker. Enchanted Planeswalker has +1. Up to 1 target creature gets +2/+0 and gains first strike and trample until end of turn. Whenever you activate a loyalty ability of the Enchanted Planeswalker, copy that ability. You may choose a new target. So you put this on your Nicol Bolas and you copy the Reanimator ability. We have Telvil's Judgment. Whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn, draw a card, create a treasure token, or make a 2/2 Black Zombie Druid. Then we have the Eldest Reborn. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Then they each discard a card, and then you put a target creature or planeswalker card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. And then we have lands. It's pretty simple, budget, straightforward. The only oddball in here is Karn's Bastion for a little bit of proliferate. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. As always, I am Weston with the Hidden Gibbon, and if you want to see your commander made into a deck, drop it in the comments down below. Have a wonderful day. Sorry.